Hey everyone, how are you doing? Now to Russ for some baseball.
All right, so Rob Manfred, I still call him the new baseball commissioner because he hasn't been in there for like a decade yet. Like it usually takes 2 or 3 years to figure out if you like the baseball commissioner or not. And I'm not sure I've liked one since Peter Uberoff, but anyhow, um, here's the thing. So Manfred he's been for a while trying to break down the two leagues, the National League and the American League. And to me, that's sacred. And I know I have this book coming out called Pioneers of Baseball, and I respect the past of baseball, right? And so the American League's been around for like 108 years. Yeah. And so now Manfred's trying to sort of break that up. And by breaking it up, he's first started by getting rid of the league presidents, right? And like, I get that, but I don't think the league presidents was that big a deal. It just basically, I think that started happening when Seelig just wanted to be the only name on the baseball. And that's fine. But now they're talking about expansion, and they're talking about giving Montreal a team back, which I'm fine with, because, again, that's sort of like the Cleveland Browns in football. They made a mistake there. They're going to try and rectify it, and maybe they'll give one to Portland. That's what Baseball America was writing. But now, with this expansion, now the leagues will be gone, and the Mets and the Yankees will be in the same division, and they won't even be in the East. They'll be in the North. And that's where I sort of lost it.
Yeah, and he read off the list of teams in this North Division. It's completely asinine.
Cleveland, Detroit, and Minnesota now would be in with like the Yankees, Red Sox, Mets, and Blue Jays. And to me, it's lunacy.
One of the things that binds baseball and baseball fans together is tradition, and this would fly in the face of that, and basically be a middle finger in your face to that.
And then there would be and clearly what's not written in the article would be a DH league now too, because they would have to make a DH all around the bases.
Now,
which I'm against.
Now, just to move on from this and bring it to hockey for the pre-show, and then we can start. I'm listening to sports radio in the mornings. Most of the time, it's Toronto-based sports radio, but because the Yankees won last night, I wanted to listen to WFAN out of New York, and I'm listening, and they have these commercials that are from CBS Sports that are basically this day in sports history, and they read off 5 or 6 quick facts, and they say, and I quote, in 1953, Montreal superstar Maurice the Rocket Richard. I don't have to say anything more after than that. The ignorance of a major network. You cannot have a gaffe, something like that, on your station. It is an embarrassment, and I'm ashamed of you, WFAN.
Yeah, it's just bad. I mean, it's just, I don't even know what to say. FAN used to be the number one, the gold standard. I mean, what are they going to say? Like the greatest Yankee of all time was Babe Ralph? Like, where are they going next?
I'm waiting for Hall of Fame goaltender Patrick Roy.
Yeah.
Which we know, somebody calls him that. But anyway, let's go. Let's start.
Yeah, I can hear you people. All right, let's continue. Just kidding. Not that bad. Hello, Hockey World. It's Tuesday, October 17th, 2017.
I'm Michael Augello.
I'm Russ Cohn.
And I'm
Eklund.
Yes. Just call me Eek. And you're watching the HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast comes to you every Monday through Friday at this time to fill you in the comings and goings in the hockey world. And I haven't talked to you about this, Mike, yet because I an actual podcast to discuss it with you because I try to do that. But the new book by Peter Pocklington that came out, and the fascinating story that he writes about it, that how in 1980.
Oh, let me see if I can guess. Was this the proposal for him and Harold Ballard to trade rosters?
Yes, the Leafs and Oilers almost switched teams.
Yes,
which would have changed things. And he said it was all but done. The NHL had approved it. Everything was there. And he says, and then Ballard backed out the last second. He says, I don't know why. He was a crazy old bugger. That's from Pocklington. The book is entitled "I Trade Him Again." Peter Pocklington's book.
I mean, do we really believe this though? Like, I got to tell you, the NHL is very conservative with a lot of things. I really have a hard time believing they would allow this. I really do.
I think this is a Peter Pocklington troll. This is a troll job.
Yes, that's what I think.
This was apparently Ballard was in a lot of financial issues at the time.
Oh yeah.
And this might have been his only way out. That's how it was starting to come across. It seemed as if, now whether or not it was actually something that Ballard was using to maybe get some other people to put on something or whatever, some kind of negotiation tactic. But from Pocklington's side of it, he said, "All right, it's like it was basically millions and millions of dollars, and the whole deal." But can you imagine? Can you just imagine how the hockey world would have changed if that had happened?
Sure, but I go back to, and I forget what the offer was. I remember when Phil Esposito was the GM of the Rangers, he was trying to get Gretzky, and it was an impossibility, and the league wouldn't allow it. And I forget what the offer was or what the circumstances were right this minute, and they didn't even allow that.
Right. Yeah, you're right. No, I mean, it is. I mean, the only thing I can say about it is that.
When was that, Russ? Was that like mid-'80s?
Yeah.
But I think Ballard, I mean, hockey's weird sometimes, and Ballard was a big deal in hockey, right? So.
Well, he was a big deal because he was in Toronto, a very visible market. But I mean, you ask anybody, a guy like Kevin Shea, who's a Maple Leaf historian who's written many books on the Leafs, and he'd be a great guy to talk about this. Harold Ballard was one of the most inept and corrupt businessmen. And you had a team that was making money hand over fist. They didn't call it the Carlton Street cash box for anything because, he made great money, but he underpaid his players. And, he made profits on a team that basically, other than in 77 and 78, they got to the semifinals. The most they made it to was the second round. They never had any success. So
they finished. The Leafs in 1980-81, right before this supposedly could have happened, finished. They only won 28 games, finishing last in their division. And it's the point at which good old Punch Imlach was trading away the fan favorites. Like he traded.
This was right. This was in the midst of them. This was in the midst of them trading Lanny McDonald for Wolf Payman, Pat Hickey, trading Pat Boutette, trading Tiger Williams, and then finally trading Darryl Sittler to the Philadelphia Flyers for Rich Costello and a second-round pick. Which turned out to be Peter Inachek. But still, it's just he was a disaster. And
Leaf Gardens was 50 years old at the time, so in 1980 it was 50 years old, and it was crumbling around him. So there was a lot of things that were pushing this towards Ballard feeling like he had no other options. Pocklington, was like, he was going to get, I guess, $50 million in the deal Ballard was going to get.
Well, all I know is this, because there has been a lot of talk about Gretzky with the Leafs. If you remember, I think it was 96 or 97 when he wanted to play for Toronto after he'd been traded from LA to St. Louis, and he was an unrestricted free agent. Gretzky and the Leafs were talking contract. Gilmore was still in Toronto, and from what I understand, the ownership of the Leafs at that point was looking to cut the budget $15 million. So they couldn't afford to sign Gretzky, and Gretzky eventually signed with the Rangers.
Right. Here's the Ranger story. It's from '88. LA Times reported that Esposito said he was approached at the draft, or asked in June. It doesn't say at the draft, but I'm assuming that. But approached in June if the Rangers were interested in Gretzky. Sater actually started that conversation up. And now Espo said he knew there would be money involved, and that's where I guess I thought about the league part of it, but I guess it never got to that. But he said the price was too high, which he never got into the price. But at the time, the Kings were trying to sign Gretzky to a lifetime contract.
Yeah.
And what they were going to do was raise basically their cable rights fees to people who pay for cable to sort of cover that.
Right.
But I don't know why that fell through. I don't remember the reason.
Well, I mean, money being part of the deal couldn't have been a hindrance in the deal from the NHL point of view, because the deal between Edmonton and LA, I think it was $15 million was involved.
Oh, yeah, no, there was always money. I mean, the Lindros, there was $20 million in the Lindros.
Yeah, so I just thought for some reason the league put a kibosh, and it wasn't. It was Sater that put a kibosh.
Okay.
And there was no salary cap. I mean, but just think of what would have happened had this occurred. I mean, the idea of, okay, so the Toronto Maple Leafs go on and win all these Stanley Cups, and with Gretzky, and probably the team doesn't get broken up. Undoubtedly, Gretzky doesn't get traded. I mean, Gretzky doesn't get traded to LA if he's a Maple Leaf, because they'll have enough money to pay him and keep him there forever.
Sure.
Messier doesn't get traded, so that changes the fate of the 1993 Rangers. It changes the fate of the LA Kings, of course, and perhaps a lot of what we talk about, new markets or whatever, Nashville and Tampa, all these other markets, that because he goes to LA.
Sure.
It's just interesting to see how that I would love to. I would almost love to write a book about that alternate reality. Like that would have happened.
It's like the what if of sports. I mean, and actually, there is a series of historical books called What If. Like, what if Pickett's charge had succeeded at Gettysburg? What if the Japanese had sunk the American carriers at Midway? Things like that. Yeah. What if the Alex Rodriguez had gone to the Boston Red Sox, and that trade hadn't been negated, and then he ended up going to the Yankees? What would have happened there? I mean, there are a lot of what ifs.
This is one of the biggest ones I've ever think about with hockey, because just because of how stretching it is to so many different situations and so many different teams, and I mean, it affected. I mean, the breaking up of that Oilers team affected everything. That team is in Toronto. They don't break up, or at least not nearly as soon. You assume they would keep going. Well, I mean, I guess you eventually maybe would have broken them up anyway. I don't know.
The only thing I think, and the only thing I think would have been inevitable, is that either Gretzky or Messier probably would have. It's sort of a Crosby-Malkin situation. Messier became a bigger impact player once he was out from underneath Gretzky's shadow. He could establish himself as the greatest captain of all time.
Right.
The greatest leader of all time, but he couldn't have done that. I mean, he did that in part with Edmonton after they won that cup after Gretzky was traded, but he only did that after he went to the Rangers in '94, and he would have never had that opportunity if he had stayed as the understudy. He probably would have wanted to be moved someplace else.
Yeah, but see, now I want to know why Gretzky didn't sign a lifetime contract with the Kings.
Wasn't that about the time that McNall started to have his problems?
Yeah, but clearly he wasn't having them yet. And Jerry Buss was a big player in the deal because he owned Prime Ticket.
Wasn't okay with this being linked to the cable.
Right.
It's very possible that I mean, the NHL doesn't, although there weren't as many rules then for sure, and most of the things were happening, you still weren't seeing that kind of stuff happening. Like, like that we're going to.
You think they nixed? Well, but then Joe Sakic, when the Rangers signed Sakic to the offer sheet, the only reason he was kept was because of cable.
Right.
That's where the money came from.
But it wasn't directly from it. It was, right? I mean.
No. It was directly from it. Rupert Murdoch directly paid it.
And you know what? In other sports, I mean, look what happened once. Like the LA Dodgers signed their regional cable deal in Southern California, all of a sudden they became drunken sailors in terms of spending money. Yeah. So it's not without precedent now that kind of deal would affect a team and their payroll. So I mean, maybe it was just too early and they didn't.
I don't know. It is fascinating. I mean, his book's out now. It's called "I Trade Him Again," and I guess, I mean, he's had a really bizarre life. Pocklington has. And now he's living in the United States. He's still in court cases for bankruptcy issues and all kinds of things like that at this point, even now. So, it's
really, he's still in court cases.
Still involved in court cases, they say. Yeah.
Wow.
It's amazing. I know.
Wow.
Really, really, really something else. All right, so let's talk a little bit about last night's game real quickly before we get on to everything else. It was a good one.
Well, I watched some of it, and it brings back a conversation that we had a little while back, because Kucherov, he's one of the best forwards in the NHL, and every time I watch him play and I see him succeed, and he scored 40 goals last year, and he seems well on his way to having another type of year, I shake my head at Steve. And one of the few things that Steve Yzerman has made a mistake on was signing him to a bridge deal instead of getting him signed long-term, because I'll tell you right now, they will rue the day. It's going to be like PK Subban in Montreal because I'm telling you right now, on a new deal, he's making more than Stamkos, and I don't know whether Tampa Bay can sign him for that much.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I don't know that. This is what I think is going on with that. I don't. At the time that he signed Kucherov, when was that? That was the bridge deal was 2 years ago.
It was the late summer of 2016. So it was before last season.
Just a year ago.
It's a 3-year deal. He's in year 2 of a 3-year deal.
Yeah, I mean, he might not have. Financially, Tampa just might not be able to do anything else. I mean, that's really the reality of it. At the time, I mean, they couldn't have, if they could have signed him for. I mean,
well,
we don't know. Teams like this, you just don't know what they're.
It would have forced them to make a decision on, okay, do you re-sign Alex Killorn, or do you use the $4.5 million you used to sign him and give it to Kucherov and give him $8 million on a 7 or 8 year deal? I mean, you had an opportunity to lock him up, and you might have been able to get him for under what he's going to get now. I think they rolled the dice and thought that he'll have success, but they'll be able to keep him under control. Look at him right now. I mean, if he hits free agency based on another good year this year and then another good one next year, he's making $10 million easily.
But who says he's hitting free agency? Callahan's contract will be gone. Coburn's contract will be gone. They have a lot of guys still playing for pretty cheap in Tampa.
Sure, but it's the point of whether they will have a problem paying him more than Stamkos.
They may not, because in 3 years, do we know Steve Stamkos is going to be there? We don't even know that.
Yeah, you really don't. Yeah, I mean,
here's what I have on the Sakic thing. Okay, so, and this comes from the Slapshot column by Stu Hackle, and I know Stu, and he drew it from a bunch of different places. But basically, there were a lot of late night phone calls with Rupert Murdoch and the Avs. The Avs had lost $36 million on revenues of $258 million, so they lost like $17.6 million that year, and they had to pay $17 million to Sakic. So what they did was they lined up $15 million from Liberty Media to help pay for the Pepsi Center, and got Fox Sports, Rocky Mountain, their cable TV rights holder, to agree on a 7-year extension. That money gave them like $100 million. Okay. And that's because of Rupert Murdoch. Now, don't tell me that wasn't directly tied, because that was all directly tied.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you there.
But
fascinating.
I mean, Russ makes, and this is the thing. Steve Yzerman has not done much wrong. And I'm looking at this from a now perspective. Maybe 2 years down the road, maybe when he's closing on unrestricted free agency, they could even have him locked up this summer, because they can renegotiate a year ahead of the end of the deal. So if they have something in place, if Kucherov wants to stay in Tampa Bay, if he loves it, he loves the fact that you're not paying taxes like in other locations, they could get a deal. I'm just saying, I think they would have gotten a much favorable financial deal if they would have gotten him on under long term. It may have cost them one of the players, but are you telling me that the difference between success and failure with this team is Alex Killorn? No,
but I'm saying, what if in 2 years Steve Stamkos has an injury and can't play anymore, which is entirely possible?
Sure.
Then there's no problem signing Kucherov. Like, I think by kicking the can down the road, they kept everybody together. They figured they were going to win a cup. We don't know if they will or not. They might. And then you have to see. But after a couple of years, like I said, Callahan's gone, Coburn's gone. They've got a deep system. I still think they can afford them.
Yeah, I still think they can. I mean, I think so. And Mike's right to wonder about it, though.
No, he's right to wonder about it. I'm not saying that.
It's definitely one of those situations that it doesn't. I mean, you're also hoping here, beyond hope, if you're Tampa, that you're going a couple rounds in the playoffs, because that's where it's going to be, right? That's where you have to do it.
Well, based on what we saw last night out of Vasilevsky, that leg save that he made was insane. Like, I don't know how many goalies in the league even make that save, because I don't know how many goalies could cover that much net and be that flexible at the same time.
Yeah, no, that was just absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy. Couldn't agree with you more. Really interesting thing that someone sent me. So this is your gift buying guide thing for today before we get into the topic. Not really a big Groupon person, but this is the most bizarre NHL Groupon I've ever seen. So I'll have to put a link up somewhere on this. Maybe I'll tweet it out. Okay. But the Groupon has this incredible deal on NHL stuff right now. So if you're looking to buy like birthday, I don't know if the NHL is just, Groupon is probably where the NHL is going to put their overstock or whatever.
No, I bet you anything because I've seen it in Buffalo and I've seen it in Toronto. They're selling off the Reebok.
Yeah, that's probably what it is, right? So
selling off the Reebok stockpile of their jerseys and everything else.
That's what they're doing.
Check this out. Okay, Austin, all these jerseys are only $65. Like
Yes.
these are jerseys. These are numbered jerseys. You know, the official jerseys,
Right?
numbered for $65. I mean, that's they're $150 on the NHL store.
Yeah.
So I mean, what's the difference between Reeboks and Adidas? Really, I mean,
No, nobody can. This is not like how say last year the Patriots and the Falcons play in the Super Bowl. They've already been printed up shirts that say Atlanta Falcons Super Bowl champions, and you see basically a bunch of people in Namibia or South Africa wearing Atlanta Falcons Super Bowl shirts. They dump them and they sell them for pennies on the dollar. That's not this. These are nice. These are good uniforms. It's just they're dumping their stockpile of Reebok.
I mean, they have to. They don't have a choice.
Right.
But it's not just jerseys though. That's the thing though. So there's NHL.
Oh, it's everything.
Like look at the the cart like these crazy
There's my Christmas present for Russ. That sweater. There you go.
NHL drink mat. I don't know what the heck's a drink mat. That's interesting.
I'm pretty sure Mike wanted the Canadians car mat for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
I mean these are like these prices are crazy. I mean,
hey, you know what? The one thing I will say this: having a Leafs doormat, the Leafs are no longer doormats. That product should be closed out.
There you go. I like these tiki totem.
Oh boy.
Bracelets. There's doormats is very. I like that a lot. How about these tailgate talk? These things are crazy. These are really expensive stuff. And I don't know.
Yeah. I always wanted a deluxe Pittsburgh Penguins car mat.
Oh yeah, for sure. Your putting mat there. You got that.
I mean, go back. That's silicone food storage. So they're selling me NHL Tupperware now.
Silicone food storage suction lid. You know what that's for? That's for like your
that's for my drink cup.
Your dog food cans.
It's a dog food cover. Okay.
That putting mat came in handy last year after the Nashville series for the Blackhawks.
Yeah, it was. That's where they got that from. That's why they had so many of them. Yeah. So this is just like there's your fleece, Rangers, all these hats. I mean, this really is, and it just goes on and on and on. So go to Groupon NHL. You can Google NHL or Groupon.
What is this Capitals baby thing? Scroll up. What the hell is that?
This thing. Let's see what that is. Okay, so Capitals baby. First of all, it's a bear.
I don't get this.
Okay, it's okay. Even the little one getting the action. It's never too early to be a fan for the great team. Enjoy the official NHL woven college baby blanket by Northwest.
Well, I mean, their minor league team is the Hershey Bears, so maybe
that's it.
Young Capitals are Bears.
I bet they're all. It's funny. I guess
they're all Bears. Yeah.
Of their baby blankets. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not really interested.
Worth looking into. I mean, if you're, we are not too far away from the holidays, so
hey, this is an opportunity. So go out and get.
Don't you want to wrap your kid in a Stanley Cup blanket? No, I'm kidding.
How about a mailbox cover? Come on, There you go.
A mailbox cover, so I have to slide that over my current mailbox.
Like
Russ, I had a blanket when I was a kid. That was when the NHL
1968 Leafs.
No, it was an NHL expansion blanket. It had the 12 teams. So I have.
Here's all the mascots on a throw. How about that? Yeah.
Right.
Wait, what's a sweatshirt throw? I don't know what that means.
It's sweatshirt material, but it's a throw.
Oh, okay. All right.
So NHL. I have NHL cufflinks. I've got all the teams, of course. So I already have all my cufflinks.
Yeah, I'm gonna get caught dead wearing San Jose Shark cufflinks.
Yeah. No, but it just keeps going and going and going. And
it really does. There's no shortage.
It's really something. I just like think that if you have a.
Remember, we can only do an hour and 10 minutes of this show.
I know we're done.
Yeah, all right, this isn't QVC.
I just want to say that Groupon.
Where's Joan Rivers?
I think we're going to save some people some money today. That's why I'm saying. And when you do save a couple dollars there, think about putting it into Patreon.com/hockey. Think about taking that $30 you saved and on your jersey, or you're actually almost $30 you saved on your jersey, and put it into go to patreon.com/hockey and support the Hockey Buzzcast. We have a lot of you already doing it now. We really appreciate it. It keeps us going, keeps us alive, keeps us happy. Makes what is this? Hold on one second. This is one thing I have to.
While you're doing that, I have to.
No, I'm bringing it up right now.
While you're bringing that up, let's just say we're very. Oh boy, what's this?
All right, so this is called an NHL Flyers uniform comfy. All right, so what's this work? Comfy throw makes you feel like you're a part of your favorite NHL team. Made of soft, thick, luxurious fleece with oversized, loose-fitting.
Okay, so it's like that lazy thing that they sold on TV that if you're walking around naked, you throw that thing on you. So now you're throwing this on just whatever clothes you're wearing.
God.
Yeah, there's nothing better than walking around naked with fleece on. Jeez. All right. Anyway, that's all. That's all for there. But good check. You can get that for only $20.
I forget what that thing was called. People would watch TV on the couch and they had that thing. It was a big thing Christmas-wise.
Yeah, with the arms.
5 years ago, yeah.
Is it a snud or the
Snuggie?
Snuggly. Snuggly.
That's an NHL Snuggie is what that is.
That's a whole bit.
It's a fugly.
It's basically like if you de-skinned Claude Giroux in his uniform and then slipped it over top of your head. That's what it basically is. So anyway.
All right,
let's go on then, if we can continue on.
Must we?
So my blog today, I was going through I always try to around the middle of the month go through the UFAs coming up, and I'm usually disappointed and saying, oh man, what are we going to do for the next months to try to keep this exciting? But this next crop of UFAs is really unbelievable right now. And I know some of them are going to sign, and some of them are going to get extended, but they haven't yet, and I just came up with 5 of them today, and I wanted to go on my percentages that they remain on their team. And I thought I'd see if you guys agreed with me or not.
Okay.
Because these are the top 5, and of course there are others as well. But this is
Let's go 5 to 1.
Go number 5, number 1. So we'll start at John Carlson. Okay. Mm-hmm. Number 5, UFA defenseman for the Washington Capitals. My whole feeling was always that the Capitals were going to re-sign him as soon as they could, and I felt like losing Schmidt and Alzner and all that was because they wanted to get Carlson signed.
Right.
But yet there has been almost no talk at all. And I did research, trying to do research on this about Carlson signing an extension right as of now. And it's almost like, when you look, the Capitals people, they're all saying, well, Carlson's got to prove himself this year.
Yeah, I think based on the defenseman market, I think he does need to prove himself because his offense has not been what we thought John Carlson would be the last couple of years.
Right. Still though, if he's in the free market, if he goes UFA on July 1st, he's a $7 million player.
Sure.
Right.
But if he has offense, he can get more. But he, the thing about it is,
well, I think the departure. We know that Shattenkirk was a rental. We know that Alzner is more of a defensive defenseman. But if you look at the advancing age of and durability of Brooks Orpik, and Niskanen has been, I know he's hurt right now. I don't see any way that they can't. They absolutely have to sign him.
Yeah.
So I think they will, Mike. I think like X said, here's the thing. So Carlson in 2014 had 10 goals, 37 points. Then he had 12 goals, 55, 8 goals, 39 points, 9 goals, 37 points. Right now he's got no goals and 4 points. So, yeah, I think they're looking for Carlson to give him double-digit goals every year and like 40-something, 50 points like they used to get out of Mike Green. Now, he's not as offensively gifted as Mike Green, but he does have a great shot. And I think he's got to break the 40-point barrier to get this contract.
And he eats minutes. But no, honestly, even if he scores 35 to 40 points, he's getting $6 million at least.
Oh, at least, yeah.
And maybe more if he goes elsewhere. I put my chances that he's a Capital next year at 85%.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah, I think that there's very little chance that they'll trade him, and there's very little chance that they won't sign him. I think they'll open up the coffers to get him under contract.
I was just talking to a player on the Caps, and it was funny, interesting. He said something to me that was really kind of fascinating. It's a guy I've known for a long time, so he's really honest with me, and he said, "Don't ever, say this off. Don't ever put my name attached to this." But he said that Nate Schmidt's loss was way bigger than people understand. Mm-hmm. That he said, Alzner was one thing, Schmidt was another. He said, honestly, Schmidt was somebody, and basically, I think that they allowed Schmidt to go because over Carlson. Essentially, that was their thinking long term. I mean,
Alzner was playing hurt during the playoffs last year, and there was no drop off when they put Schmidt in the first round against Toronto. So yeah, it was a loss. I thought that they were trying to engineer things so they wouldn't give up Schmidt in the expansion draft, but it ended up not being the case.
Yeah, we can get that done. All right, number 4, James Neal. Okay, so James Neal's off to a torrid start, and had a great year for Nashville last year in the playoffs. His stock has really never been higher. He's just completely getting better and better as far as it goes. I've heard the rumor is, because we talked about it the other day, so I wanted to look into it a little bit. What would he say with the Knights? And the rumor is that they are going to make a big pitch for him in January. But then if he says no, they're going to move him. So it's going to be the case where
this is where I don't look. This is where George McPhee has to go to him and say, okay, if you do like it here, and if he says yes, okay, we're going to trade you. We're going to get as much as we can for you, and then in July we'll give you everything that you want. Because then they get the return.
They would get that. That is true. Although, as much as I think that they should do that, and I've always talked about teams doing that, they don't.
But in an expansion team situation, you have to do that. And if he's not on board with it, then your decision is simple. You trade him.
Well, here's the thing.
Then rest. Then I'll let you go. But one more thing we have to remember about that is that you have to sell tickets,
right?
Like you can't. At the end of this year, you can't wait till he re-signs in July. Okay, you have to, and so you need to have some players that are going to be part of this team's fiber that the community likes, that are going to be here next year to sell tickets.
Well, they sell tickets in July and in August. I mean, that's and they're already
season ticket pushes before hockey ends. Like they try,
but they already have a season ticket. They've already had a season ticket push. They're locked in for I think 2 or 3 years, so they really can sort of play around with that. I mean, they want to develop their fan base. But what I'm saying is, this is something where it's a hockey move where you get a return and you get the player too. So I think that is the way that they have to go. And if they can't do that, if he says, well, no, I want to stay here, or no, I'm not, I'm going to test the market, then you trade him.
Here's my thing about Neal, and I think this will play into it a little bit. While his value is very high, he does miss games. He's missed in the last 6 years. He's played 398 games out of 492.
Yeah.
So that's a decent amount. It's almost 100 missed games in that 6-year period.
I mean, I get the motivation here to generate interest, to enthuse the fan base. But in the first couple of years of this franchise, other than their first round picks, other than Brandstrom and Glass and the young guys that they got in the expansion draft like Theodore and Nate Schmidt, nobody is not. I'm not sentimental about anybody. Nobody's nailed down. If I get a deal that's beneficial that trades Marc-Andre Fleury, I do it in 2 seconds.
Yeah,
you have to do that. That's the way you build a team, is to maximize your assets, and you have to do that.
And he doesn't have a no trade anymore either.
No,
he doesn't. Well,
I put his gentleman's agreement for that now. So
I put it the chance that he is a Knight next year at 40%.
I think that's fair.
Yeah, I think it might be a little less. I think there's I think they'd say 30.
Okay, 30. Yeah, I think he's liking this experience. I mean, it's early, so it could change. But
yeah.
But
right now everything is roses and candy. Everything is great.
Number 3, James Van Riemsdyk.
Oh boy, here you go.
Here, the Leafs sure could use him. He's playing really well for them right now. But of course, everybody knows their gigantic contracts that are in the Leafs' future, and now this is going to play into that. And for the right D-man, they would move him. And I talked to somebody yesterday who said the same thing again. And actually, the Philly could be talking to Toronto about him. With Philly bringing him back,
no way. That's not happening.
This is the scenario here, because
I said the same thing, Russ, because I've heard the same things you did, but I was really surprised you told me this. Anyway, continue.
This is the scenario that people don't realize. He's a rental now. He's basically a glorified rental. Mm-hmm. And you are not going to get a top 4 defenseman that that would play for the Leafs for a rental. So the only way you're going to get that for Van Riemsdyk is A, sign him to an extension and then trade him, or B, trade him for a the usual package you get for a rental of his quality, which is a prospect and a first-round pick, and then trade that for the defenseman. It's not going to be it's not going to be a Ryan Callahan for Marty St. Louis deal. It's going to be a deal where they're going to get a first-round pick and a prospect for JVR, because that's what a team who's contending, like say Anaheim. Anaheim needs a scoring winger. Anaheim is not going to give up Brandon Montour. They may give up Jakob Larson, but probably not. They're going to give him a first-round pick and a prospect. And then the Leafs will have to go out and find a team that is rebuilding, like, say, Vancouver, and trade a first-round pick and a prospect for a Chris Tanev or somebody like that. I don't see a one-for-one or a direct deal where Van Riemsdyk gets them the defenseman they want. If that was the case, it would have happened over the summer with a year left in the contract.
I think he's playing out the season. I think they'll trade his rights at the draft for like a 7th-round pick and call it a day.
I think the possibility of that has increased, Russ. But the thing is that the Leafs have a lot of depth at forward. When you have Connor Brown playing on your 4th line, and now Mitch Marner's playing.
Oh no, not anymore.
Then now Mitch Marner's playing on your 4th line, which will be temporary. You've got a lot of flexibility, and you've got kids with the Marlies that can come up and play.
Yeah, but nobody who's going to come up to play in the playoffs. That's the thing.
But this is
remember that he's a great playoff player.
Right.
In the playoffs. And if the Leafs go to the playoffs and he has an incredible playoff run,
then they might have to reconsider. But
that was the whole thing last week regarding the report from Pierre LeBrun that he wants to stay in Toronto and he's willing to give him a cap-friendly amount on an 8-year contract. Well, he's turning 29. They're not going to sign him to an 8-year deal until he's 37 years old. The cap friendly for the Leafs is a 4 or 5 year contract at a little bit more of a raise, maybe say $5 million, because they have to sign Matthews, they have to sign Marner and Neal.
Science will say no to that.
Right. So right, but I think that it's either going to he's going to walk away in free agency, like Russ was saying, or he's getting traded before the deadline. I do not think in either situation he's going to be on the Maple Leafs next year. So I think 0% he's on the Maple Leafs next year.
I have him at 25% being back to Toronto. Because
what I could see happening? I could see him going through the season, them trading his rights to New Jersey negotiating with him and signing him. That's what I could say.
Yeah, he would fit really well with the Devils too. The Devils have a good young team.
Yeah,
that's just my thoughts.
He wants to play with the Rangers. We know that for a long
time. He does, but again, not everybody gets to.
Yeah,
and we do need to talk about that game in a little bit because there's some crazy things going on.
Yes, we'll get to that right after this. Number 2, Cam Atkinson, only 28 years old, led the Blue Jackets in scoring last year. One of the best power play players in the game right now.
Cam Atkinson had his career year 1 year too early.
He's 4 straight 20-plus seasons, and then he hasn't been in. It's actually 5, including last year's 35-goal season. So he had a great year last year, but he has been consistent for 4 years now. But he had last year. Remember, he had some run-ins with Tortorella towards the end of the year. He was benched a couple times for a period here and there, not for an entire game, but where Torts wouldn't put him out on the ice for a half a period or a period. Yeah. That I think will play into this because Cam Atkinson, he's 20. A 28-year-old guy like him has a real serious potential in the free agent market.
Yeah, I get the feeling that he's going to be the guy that stays through the year and then walks in free agency.
I think there's a chance of that. I look at Atkinson and I do think he had a career year too. I think he's a pretty good player. Don't get me wrong. I know he had 30 goals. Chris Kreider had 30 goals once. I don't know if he's ever getting back to 30 goals, but he does have a Matt Bolesky feel to me. And if you go and ask the Bruins now how they feel about that signing, they'll say, hey, we love Bolesky. He plays tough, but he had 15 goals last year.
No, I think you couldn't be more wrong. I think he's way better than Matt Bolesky.
I don't know. They're both the same age. I think he's had the great situation, Atkinson, of playing really well there. I'm saying you take him out of that situation,
Yeah.
I think he's back. I think he's 15-goal Matt Bolesky. I do.
See, I think he's better than Bolesky, but I get that point. It's like it could be a Radim Verbata situation where he goes someplace else and doesn't play as well. And the money that it'll cost a team to sign him as a free agent, it could be $6.5 million. I mean, it could be the same amount of money that an Opozo or that a Backus got in free agency over the last couple of years. And that type of deal is sort of fraught with peril because, if he produces the way he's produced in Columbus, then all fine and good. If he doesn't, then that's an albatross around your neck.
Yeah. And Bolesky doesn't even have a point this year, by the way.
I say 70% he's back with Columbus.
I think it's
higher than that. I do think it's higher than that.
I think it's less than that. I think it's too much of a temptation for him to test the waters and get the money when he can, unless Columbus shows him the money. Now, a guy like Jack Johnson, his contract is dropping off the book, so maybe they simply just turn around and give the money that Johnson was making to Atkinson. But
here's the downside to Atkinson: 2013-14 playoffs, 3 points in 6 games. 2016-17 playoffs, 3 points in 5 games, and -3. Like, if you want to get big money, you do have to show something in the playoffs. That's not enough.
Yeah, here's 3 factors that weigh against Atkinson being extended in Columbus. 3 contracts up after next season: Panarin, Werenski, and Bobrovsky.
Yeah.
Good luck.
No, they're all big contracts. All right, done. Finally, number 1, of course, is John Tavares, who we've written about.
0%.
And talked about. You think 0?
Mike is going with 0. I went with 0 a couple of years ago for the Flyers making the playoffs, and they made it on the last day of the season. And I stuck with 0, and it was pretty close to being right. I can't go 0 now based on that.
Yancey's an Islander. Mike, 0%.
0%.
Rush.
I'm going to say it's 40%.
I'm at 85%. I'm totally different than you guys.
He's got about as much chance of staying in Brooklyn as that cow that
the cow on the soccer field.
No, all right.
The cow on the soccer field is going to be the next star for the men's soccer team. You watch.
We brought up Kevin Allen. Yesterday we talked to Kevin Allen about this a little bit and said to him, besides the cow, we said to him,
the cow is today news. That's why.
I know. What do you think that? What do you think this stadium situation is really affecting him? Is my theory, So, and Kevin said, yeah, probably a little uncertain. I'll kind of read the uncertainty and everything like that.
Yeah.
And I went and talked to some people that I know him pretty well last night to try to get a little bit better grasp on that. And they said it's not. The people I talked to said it's not affecting him unless we're talking about relocation completely. And that the issue here.
That's the whole thing. You don't know.
The issue right now, it still feels like when you talk to people at the end, like he's talking to people at the NHL, he's talking to people at the Islanders, they're all still saying that there's an 85 to 90% chance, like I'm putting on here, that they stay in the area somewhere, that they're in the area, that they're not. Now, if this team is moving to Quebec, then that could change. That changes everything.
Okay, like let me pose this to you. So you're buying a house with your wife, right? And this is like your one purchase. This is your last purchase. Like you can't afford anything else. And the realtor says there's an 85% chance this house will not slip into the earth in the next 15, 20 years because it's on a soft patch of ground. Are you going to base your whole future on that house now?
This situation is very close to my heart because you're almost exactly right to what happened here. But it was more like 75%, but yeah, it's pretty close. Yeah. So I hear what you're saying. I do. But
and that's what I'm saying. You're telling the people who are directing John Tavares about his future, they want better percentages than 85%.
Yeah, but the people I'm talking to are people who know JT really well.
I'm sure.
Say that he and these aren't necessarily his agents. We're not talking about people. We're talking about people who are like you are friends of his. You know him.
Like his posse. I got it.
Sort of his posse. Yes. They will not, and they've been honest with me. The only place they think he'll go is Toronto. That's the only place they think he would go, and that might not be a possibility. So if that's not a possibility, then I think that he's staying. He likes it there. He really likes it there.
Well, I actually think that there's a chance that he could come to Buffalo, because it's close enough to Toronto, and
I still think there's a chance of Buffalo. Absolutely.
Yeah, The team that's perfectly set up financially to make a major bid for him, but I don't think there's a chance in hell that he'll go there because it's a crucible of psychosis is Montreal.
Yeah, they have all the money, but yeah, now it doesn't seem good.
You do not want to expose yourself to that rabid cesspool of controversy. Which, because that's really what it is. It's like, I mean, he'd get eaten alive there because he'd be the hope for that franchise because the center that they've been lacking for a number of years. And if it doesn't work out, it would be like LeCavier going there. But
I think the holdup for the Sabres is they're not yet a Stanley Cup contender, and he's been living with that.
Yes.
He's going to want more than that.
Right, and right, and then that's you're trading one situation for the other. I mean, the thing is, we talked about the Rangers earlier. I mean, like
now things are getting to be up in the air for the Rangers.
Right. I mean,
what's with that? Rest you were talking about that. You want to get into that?
Yeah. So okay, so we'll pivot to the Rangers. A little while ago, the proposed lines for tonight and pairings came out, and of course now my Twitter page jumped off it, but I'm going to get it back here. All right. Here's what they are. First line, Nash, Zibanejad, Zuccarello. Fine. No problem with that. Second line, Kreider, Desharnais, and Miller. Okay, if you're telling me David Desharnais is going to line up against Evgeny Malkin for faceoffs, I'm cringing.
Yeah.
I'm legitimately cringing at that. Third line, VC Hayes, Fost. Okay, even though putting Fast on the third line, it's probably not a good move right off the bat. And then it's Grabner, Cracknell. Like Cracknell, you can't get out of the lineup now because he's Lindy's guy. They picked him up off of waivers from Dallas. He had a career-high 10 goals last year. I don't even know if he'll score 2 goals for the Rangers. We'll see. But you can't get him out of there. And then Grabner, Cracknell, and Buchnevich is the fourth line. Buchnevich now gets the Marner treatment, goes from the first line, second line, top power play, not first. Well, I think he was on the first line for a couple games. Now he's on the fourth line. Now here are the defensive pairings. This is the equally alarming part.
Cracknell is Lindy's Tanner Glass.
He is. You have Ryan McDonough and Anthony DeAngelo top pairing. I do not like that. I like Anthony DeAngelo, but he does make some mistakes. I do not want him going up against Sidney Crosby. I'm sorry. So that's one problem. Stahl and Shattenkirk is the next pairing, and then Shea and Smith. Like now they're burying Brady Shea, and it's like now again these are not guaranteed, but just the idea that they're working with these shows the amount of flux the Rangers are in right now.
Where's Nick Holden? Where's the savior, Nick Holden?
And Nick Holden's not. He can't even get in there.
Well, this is it's a tough draw to get the Penguins tonight for sure.
Yeah,
but with the way things have been going. But
I give these lines 10 minutes. If these are the real lines and pairings, I give them 10 minutes.
Yeah. I mean, you got to get that defensive pairing stuff, especially.
Yeah,
it's insane. I mean,
Desharnais too. Second line, come on.
Yeah, Desharnais. I mean, he couldn't make it in Montreal, and I don't see how this is going to be I don't see how you can possibly bring him into the Rangers.
Well, for all the fringe benefits that the Rangers got out of Grabner last year in the first half that he had, it's basically reality has set in because he's become Toronto Grabner all over again.
He has all of a sudden he is getting the breakaways the same way, but now he's not getting the breaks.
But I'm going to tell you something right now, guys, that you can take to the bank. The Rangers are winning tonight.
I mean, this is the game they have to win if they really want to sort of get their swagger back. If they don't win this, then the murmuring continues and probably the coach talk and everything else gets worse.
This is the kind of game in hockey that we've seen so many times. The Rangers have been knocked out of the playoffs by the Penguins. They're not playing well. They're coming into a situation that's tough here. The Penguins, it's a national game and all that stuff. This is the Rangers game. They're going to win this one. This is the one. Lundqvist has an incredible game, and
Okay, so here comes the Lundqvist talk. So yesterday, I was watching a certain network, and a certain former player said he doesn't like the fact that Lundqvist plays deep in the net, and it's a problem. And I'm thinking, Lundqvist has played deep in the net, and I put for a very long time. And, of course, Anthony Mingione trolls me, having some fun with a winky emoji on Facebook. It says, "How long, Russ?" Because he knows it's most of his career, but it's not his entire career. But at some point, Allaire did make the adjustment, and he's pretty much run with it ever since. And, you know, aside from the hating Ranger fan base that just absolutely can't stand Lundqvist, he's done pretty well for himself. Now,
I think that hating Lundqvist fan base are the same people who hate Joe Girardi.
yeah, I think that's probably true because there is a lot of Yankee Ranger crossover, so I think there's truth to that. But the point is, Ek, and you being a goalie, I said to people, listen, this is not the problem. And then, of course, a guy who jumped on the page who was a college goalie said, hey, it's clearly, you know, the guys playing in front of him and the clearing of the pucks, because it's true. I noticed that Lundqvist is making a lot of great saves, but he's making 2 or 3 and the puck's still in front of him. That is a definite problem. And he did already have a shutout. I mean, it's like, what else do you want from this guy? He's going to have a bad game. He's going to give up 3 and 4 goals. So does everybody in this league.
I'm telling you right now, I saw Lundqvist in person a little over a week ago in Toronto. He gave up 5 goals in the first period. He was not the problem. It was not his fault, and he made a bunch of saves that kept that game from being 8-1. And you know what? The Rangers, they pulled him. They put Pavlik in. They came back and tied that game, which was a statement, you know, of the team that I thought that they were. They're struggling right now. But the problem is not Lundqvist. The problem is, you know, I don't think they're strong enough up the middle, and you know, and I don't think their defense. I mean, I think you should be playing McDonough and Shattenkirk and playing them 25 minutes a night. That's probably the best thing that they could do, but they're going to spread out their defense a little bit and maybe put a more mobile Shattenkirk with Stahl to take away the disadvantage of his lack of mobility. But there's a lot there. There's just have to a slow start. But
I will tell you this, what they are missing, and I saw it yesterday in the Tampa game, and I'm not trying to troll anybody because there was plenty of times where I said Dan Girardi was not playing good shifts. But Dan Girardi blocked a lot of shots, and he was blocking shots for Tampa. And Lundqvist does need a guy at times to block some shots.
And right in front of the goalie and clears rebounds.
Right. And these are things that Lundqvist is missing at the moment. They thought Brendan Smith would be the answer for that, and so far it has not been the answer.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I noticed last night. I was amazed at how Girardi was always right on top of the goalie. And to the point where I thought it was even bothering Vasilevsky to a degree. And then I realized, you know, this is what he's done because Lundqvist can play so far back in his goal. Girardi can play almost in the crease, and be like, you know, and he does this very well. Other games tonight, the Maple Leafs and the Caps will play. This will be a fun one to watch for sure.
Rematch of the first round series from last year, and I mean,
it's funny how different these teams are looked at right now, though. I mean, you know, the Caps are looked at heading downwards. The Maple Leafs are heading upwards.
Yeah, but not heading down.
The Caps really heading down? I don't think so.
I just think that the Capitals were a 4-line 6D extremely deep team last year, and now they're back to the way they were 3 years ago, where they're heavily dependent on Ovechkin, and he's got 9 goals. They've got 2 good centers in Kuznetsov and Backstrom, and the third and the fourth lines are more workman-like guys. Now, where they're concerned, I think, right now is Niskanen is out on long-term injury, and you know, their defense is not as strong as they would like it with after losing Alzner and after losing Schmidt and after losing Shattenkirk. So defensively, they may have problems, but I think there's enough offense there, and they still have Holtby. So I think they're strong. They're just not as strong as last year.
Yeah, I think it's true.
And the Leafs, you know, the Leafs right now, they're 4-1 defensively. They're not playing great. Babcock is shaking things up. He hasn't played the same 6 defensemen in any of the games this year. He's been rotating guys on the bottom pairing, and I think right now what they're doing is they're trying to figure out you know, whether any of the young guys that they have right now are good enough to be everyday NHLers, and if not, then they're going to explore trade options, or I think they're still going to sign Roman Polak to a 1-year deal. But they're a work in progress right now. They're extremely exciting offensively, but defensively they're still not pleasing their coach.
Yeah, I do want to say the Rangers are 40. Their best guy for block shots is Brady Shea, tied for 41st in the league with 10. Now, I'm not suggesting they should block shots every turn like Tortorella, but that's a big drop-off for them. It is.
It's a drop-off. I think the bigger thing is the rebound clearing. I honestly do.
Yeah.
Because you say Lundqvist, and I've been watching Lundqvist goals he's giving up. A lot of them have been rebound goals.
Yes.
And
the glove. There is something about the glove, too, because, look, here's the thing with Lundqvist. We want to pick on him 2 years ago he couldn't clear, right? If you watch him this year, not only are his clears good, he's had some passes that are Brodeur-like on the power play now. So he's really worked on that. But he has a new glove, and they do talk about how it's closing differently. And another goalie that I know that's been playing goalie for like 40 years in different leagues basically said that when he switched gloves, it's tough. And he couldn't even catch a beach ball at times with them. And if you notice, they did highlight that the other night because he does have a weird glove the way it catches, and he's trying to get used to it.
Yeah. It's funny you say this because, I mean, I've changed all my goalie equipment over the years from the time I was like 18, 19, 20 years old, except for my goalie glove. Like that is because it's something that it's in terrible shape. I've fixed it so many times. I've had it taken to leather places to have things replaced on it. But once you get a glove that you're really comfortable with, and that's a big part of my game, I was like, that had to stay the same, So yeah, that's really, really interesting. Canucks and Sens tonight as well. Devils and Lightning.
Erik Karlsson is expected to be back for Ottawa, so
we have to give Ottawa credit. Once again, they have weathered the storm without Karlsson. I thought they would weather the storm without Karlsson. I still didn't think they were going to make the playoffs. I thought they would get close. We'll see if they can hold it all year. But I got to say that the Sens, you know what? It's the team effort, man. They really they get a lot out of their team.
They continually surprise me, and some of their players are way better than people realize too. So it's just like,
I think Stone and Hoffman are definitely better than what people perceive them as. I think that's fair.
The Sharks and Canadiens tonight is a good one. Late, if you're looking late, because
that's a sleeping pill. It is.
But this is a chance for the Montreal Canadiens to get a win, and get this thing started on the right way. The Sabres, likewise.
Wait, let's stop you there though. If they don't get the win here, like I wasn't worried about their offense. I thought they would have enough on defense to sort of get this through, but they have a really good coach now, and he can't figure this out. At some point, when are they going to push the panic button again?
I mean, they scored.
Not meaning for the coach, meaning for another trade or something.
They are scoring some goals now. I mean, not many, but the last couple games at least. So I mean, I think they're coming out of that slowly. Like a bunch of guys got their first goals against Toronto. Which they needed to happen. Like Drouin scored his first goal against Toronto. So that's and then the Sabres and Vegas tonight. They're talking about a must win for Buffalo. Buffalo's got to win that game. Buffalo cannot let the Vegas Knights beat them tonight.
Well, they did get off the schneid and beat Anaheim on Sunday, but I mean,
that won't matter if they lose this game. I mean. It's like, that you have to when you're struggling, you got to beat the expansion team. Rematch of the 2005 Stanley Cup, Carolina and Edmonton tonight.
Oh yeah, we've been all waiting for that one.
I know, best series. One of the best series of ever though. That was a hell of a series.
It was. Again, considering who Edmonton had in net, we have to give so much credit to Steve Stamkos. Was like a god that year. Like he was never that great ever again. But Chris Pronger was unbelievable. If they didn't have Chris Pronger, no way in hell that team even gets through the playoffs.
Oh yeah, we'll probably even make the playoffs.
Yeah.
And then the Winnipeg Jets, struggle. Who have struggled, but they're 3-2. They've gotten back on the right way. They've won a couple games in a row here.
Ehlers was up for Player of the Week. He got a star like Matthews. So they could score.
They play the Blue Jackets tonight. And Steve Mason returns to goal for them tonight. Now Steve Mason
is it in Columbus or is it?
It's in Winnipeg.
It's in Winnipeg, so that's better. Okay.
Mason does play well against Columbus. That's probably one of the things that they're thinking here and putting him in there. But he'll fix his 8.0 goals, 8-point-something goals against average, and 680 save percentage that Mason has in 2 games. So yeah, it's insane. I mean, he's 0-2. The other guys.
That's not good.
Alan Buck is 3-0. Totally. So it's Mason needs. This is a huge game for Mason. Put it that way. This is just.
It's a big game. I mean, he could get Jonas Enroth treatment if he doesn't do well in this game.
Yeah, but the problem is he's got 2 years at $4 million.
No, I know he won't get dropped, but he could not play again for a long time.
Yes.
And the Predators Avalanche in Nashville. That'll be a good one too. The Avalanche are 4-2 right now. So,
you know what? Here's the funny thing. And this is worthy of talking about, considering everybody talking about Duchesne getting traded every day of the week. While they're 4-2 right now, we don't hear anything about Duchesne getting traded, even though the conversations may be going on, but we don't hear boo about it anymore.
No. Which leads me to believe that he'll get traded pretty soon, because usually that's what happens. Once things quiet down, then okay, we can.
But if they were losing, it would be a story every day, right? It would be like, oh, you got to trade Matthew Shane. It's killing the team. It's not hurting the team at all.
But the thing is that they might actually be able to get close to what they want in a trade with them not in a position where they need to make that trade to move on. So I think that there's a possibility it could happen.
Yeah, I like it too. Well, enjoy the games tonight, guys, and we'll be back again tomorrow. Remember, without the buzz, it is just hockey. We will talk to you soon.